Welcome back to Fast Frame Recaps. Today we're diving into a 2011 biography, comedy, and drama film titled The Intouchables. Spoilers ahead, so proceed with caution. Late at night in Paris, Driss is behind the wheel, driving his employer Philippe through the city. Bored of sitting in traffic, Driss decides to speed things up, literally. He pushes past the speed limit, weaving through cars and ignoring traffic rules. Naturally, this draws the attention of the police, and Driss bets €100 that he can shake them off. However, after speeding under a bridge, the cops catch up by setting a trap on both sides. Unfazed, Driss doubles down, betting €200 that he can convince the police to give them an escort instead. When the officers stop him, he puts on an act, claiming to be offended and explaining that Philippe is disabled and needs to get to the hospital urgently. The police confirm his story after finding the wheelchair in the trunk and witnessing Philippe convulsing in his seat, another part of their act. Convinced it's a real emergency, the police let Driss off the hook and even provide an escort to the hospital. To celebrate his win, Driss plays September by Earth, Wind & Fire on the car stereo. Once they arrive at their destination, Driss and Philippe enjoy a quick smoke together as soon as the police leave. Driss reassures Philippe that he'll take care of things and quickly drives off before the hospital staff can reach them. This unlikely friendship started months earlier. Philippe and his assistant Magali were holding interviews to find a new caretaker, but it wasn't going well. Most of the candidates gave either dull or awkward responses. Then, Driss barges in, skipping ahead of others waiting in line. He's not even there for the job. He just wants a signature confirming he applied so he can claim unemployment benefits. Driss is blunt, a little rude, and even flirts with Magali, but Philippe finds him amusing. Instead of signing the papers immediately, Philippe tells Driss to come back the next day to get them. Driss heads home to his modest neighborhood, where he tries to take a bath despite constant interruptions from his younger siblings. Thankfully, his older sister Mina, the responsible one of the family, helps him finish in peace. While waiting for their mother to return, Driss notices his younger brother Adama stepping out of a suspicious car. When Adama enters the apartment, he claims he was at school, but quickly grabs his bag and leaves again, making Driss even more suspicious of his behavior. In the evening, Driss's mom comes home, and he gives her a Fabergé egg he stole, claiming he's been on vacation when she asks where he's been. However, she isn't pleased to see him. After disappearing for 6 months without a word, he suddenly shows up as if her house is a hotel. Frustrated with his lies and needing to focus on her other children, she tells him to leave and not come back. That night, Driss hangs out with some neighborhood friends, sharing snacks and a smoke. The next day, Driss returns to Philippe's house to pick up his papers. He's greeted by the housekeeper, Yvonne, who gives him a tour and explains Philippe's daily routine. She also shows him the room he'd get if he took the job, complete with a private bathroom. Driss is immediately drawn to the bathtub, but is quickly ushered to meet Philippe. Philippe offers him the signed paper, but also presents a job opportunity. Driss agrees to a 1-month trial, and Philippe bets he won't last 2 weeks. After settling into his new room, Driss starts training to take care of Philippe. He learns how to stimulate Philippe's legs, transfer him to his wheelchair, help him shower, and change his clothes. Things get awkward when he finds out he'll need to put on high stockings and even clean Philippe after bathroom trips. Despite complaining and saying he won't do those tasks, Driss eventually accepts them as part of the job. Later that evening, while Driss enjoys a snack on the roof, he's interrupted by Philippe's daughter Elisa and her boyfriend Bastien, who are looking for a private spot to make out. Driss refuses to share his beer and promptly kicks them out. Driss gradually adjusts to Philippe's routine, though he makes some early mistakes. He initially tries handing the phone to Philippe instead of holding it to his ear, and forgets the baby monitor while taking a bath. Over time, he learns to organize Philippe's mail into folders. While most letters are for Philippe to read, Driss is told not to open a specific set of private ones. When he finds a flyer for female escorts, Driss decides to create a folder for them, instead of throwing them out as Philippe requests. It's not all work for Driss in his new role. He continues to have fun by trying, unsuccessfully, to flirt with Magali and occasionally inviting escorts to spend the night with him. One morning, Yvonne enters Driss's room to scold him for being late. While there, she notices some dangerous weapons in his bag, but chooses not to say anything about them yet. Driss's task for the day is to drive Philippe around. However, he refuses to place Philippe in the back of a van like cargo. Instead, he opts for one of the luxurious cars that usually sit unused. Initially, Philippe argues they should be practical, but he soon gets excited about the idea of a faster, more enjoyable ride, even though Yvonne clearly disapproves. As they try to leave the building, they encounter a neighbor parked at the entrance, ignoring a no parking sign. Driss wastes no time confronting the man. He grabs him by the shirt and threatens him until he moves the car. While Philippe is impressed by Driss's boldness, Yvonne once again disapproves. Their first stop is a museum, where Philippe plans to buy a piece of art. Driss, unimpressed, remarks that the artwork, a simple red blotch on canvas, isn't worth the money. Later, Philippe meets with a relative who expresses concern about Driss's violent tendencies and reveals that Driss has a criminal record. Philippe, however, isn't bothered. He values Driss because he doesn't pity him and treats him like a regular person, even joking with him freely. After another unsuccessful attempt at flirting with Magali, Driss shares a casual dinner with Yvonne in the kitchen. While they eat, they overhear Philippe dictating a letter to Magali over the baby monitor. Yvonne turns it off, explaining that it's a private matter. She then reveals the truth. Philippe has been exchanging letters with a woman named Eleanor, whose correspondence he never allowed Driss to read. Philippe and Eleanor have never met in person, as their relationship exists only through letters. Switching to Yvonne's love life, Driss teases her about the way the gardener often looks at her. Later that night, as Driss tries to sleep, he hears strange noises through the baby monitor. Realizing Philippe is struggling to breathe, Driss goes to his room to help. He calms Philippe with soothing words and uses a wet cloth to ease his discomfort. After a while, Philippe falls asleep, only to wake up moments later saying he needs fresh air. Without hesitation, Driss places Philippe in his wheelchair, wraps him in blankets, and takes him out for a peaceful stroll by the river. This is the first time in a long while that Philippe has seen Paris at night. Feeling more at ease now, he opens up to Driss, explaining that medication can only do so much, and he often struggles with phantom pain. As they spot some women walking by, Philippe shares a personal confession. He's unable to physically please a woman due to his condition. However, he does find pleasure in having his ears massaged, as they are particularly sensitive. When the phantom pain threatens to return, Driss offers Philippe one of his joints. Though skeptical at first, Philippe eventually tries it and ends up enjoying the experience. Later, they head to a restaurant where they share a meal and laugh together. During their conversation, Philippe reveals more about his past. He met his wife during their university years, and shortly after they married, she endured 5 miscarriages before being diagnosed with a terminal illness. This led them to adopt Elisa. Philippe has always been passionate about competitions, extreme sports, and speed, and he discovered a love for paragliding. Unfortunately, it was during a paragliding session that bad weather caused him to crash, breaking his vertebrae. Despite the accident, Philippe insists his greatest challenge isn't being in a wheelchair but living without his wife. After some lighthearted joking, Philippe suddenly remembers the date and realizes Driss has completed his 1-month trial. He officially hires him, but insists that Driss must first return the Fabergé egg he stole. Philippe explains that the egg was a gift from his wife, who gave him one every year during their marriage. He now has 25, matching their years together. The following day, Driss meets Mina after school. She's upset because he hasn't been replying to her messages, except to ask her to locate the missing egg. She also mentions that police officers have been calling their home. Later, Driss visits Adama, who admits he was caught with 30 grams on him. Driss tries to take him out for lunch, but Adama declines and leaves in the same suspicious car from before. That evening, Driss sits in as Philippe dictates another letter to Eleanor, with Magali writing it down. Driss finds Philippe's poetic language overly dramatic and suggests he should be more straightforward. He's also shocked to learn that this correspondence has been going on for 6 months without either of them exchanging photographs. When Driss stumbles upon Eleanor's phone number in one of Philippe's letters, he takes it as a cue to act. He calls her and hands the phone to Philippe, encouraging him to finally talk to her directly instead of through letters. The conversation goes so smoothly that Philippe becomes engrossed, chatting with her frequently, even moments before he and Driss attend the opera. During the performance, Driss can't help but laugh and mock the elaborate costumes. The following day, Driss persuades Philippe to exchange photographs with Eleanor and picks one of him in his wheelchair. However, while Driss is busy painting, Elisa barges into his room, asking for cigarettes and teasing him about trying to be artistic. Frustrated, Driss kicks her out before heading to Philippe, who is discreetly asking Yvonne to swap the selected photo for an older one taken before he became quadriplegic. Yvonne quickly hides the new photo in the escort file just as Driss arrives, venting about Elisa's behavior and insisting Philippe should discipline her. Yvonne agrees, and while Philippe promises to address the matter, he's mostly intrigued by Driss's accidental admission that he's been painting. As the days pass, the bond between Philippe and Driss deepens. Driss takes Philippe outside to enjoy the snow and even brings him along on his runs. Philippe reciprocates by gifting Driss his first suit and reprimanding Elisa, while Driss eavesdrops via the baby monitor. When Driss completes his first painting, he proudly shows it to Magali, only to be slapped when he attempts to kiss her. Philippe, on the other hand, appreciates the artwork and promises to try selling it. The pair continues to have fun together, indulging in fast cars, sharing joints, and even hiring escorts. But when Philippe's birthday arrives, he isn't particularly thrilled. He explains that every year he pretends to be surprised by the party and has to endure visits from relatives who only show up to confirm he's still alive. As the guests enjoy live classical music, Driss goes looking for Elisa, finding her in her room, upset and crying. She has taken some of Yvonne's pills, though fortunately, they weren't enough to harm her as she had intended. Elisa reveals that she's upset because Bastien broke up with her and insulted her, calling her a tart. She asks Driss to confront him, and he agrees, but only for a price. Meanwhile, Philippe shows Driss's painting to one of his relatives and manages to sell it for 11,000 euros. Back in the dining room, Driss chats with Yvonne, who shares that Magali is dating someone named Fred, though their relationship seems unstable, giving Driss a glimmer of hope. As the party starts to wind down, Philippe introduces Driss to some iconic classical music pieces, but Driss can't resist cracking jokes. Once the live band finishes, Driss grabs his iPod and plays Boogie Wonderland by Earth, Wind and Fire. He then bursts into an energetic dance in the center of the room, showing off impressive moves that inspire the rest of the party to join in. Philippe enjoys the lively scene from his spot. Later, as Driss helps Philippe get ready for bed, he sneaks a peek at Eleanor's latest letter. She has included her picture, revealing she's quite attractive, and mentions wanting to meet Philippe in Paris the following week. When the big day arrives, Yvonne and Driss help Philippe try on numerous outfits until they find the perfect look. Since Yvonne will accompany Philippe to the meeting, Driss takes his day off to visit Bastien. He intimidates the boy into apologizing to Elisa, bringing her croissants daily and even fixing his hair. Afterward, Driss stops by his mother's workplace, watching her from a distance without revealing himself. At the restaurant, Philippe and Yvonne wait patiently for Eleanor, but she's running very late. After an hour, Philippe loses hope and calls Driss to pick him up. As he leaves the restaurant, he doesn't notice Eleanor arriving at the same moment. That evening, Philippe surprises Driss by taking him aboard his private plane. He hands Driss the money earned from the painting sale, filling him with immense joy. The next morning, they arrive in the countryside where Philippe decides to go paragliding and insists Driss join him. Initially terrified, Driss eventually embraces the thrill and enjoys the flight. When they return home, Driss finds Adama waiting for him. Upon noticing the scars on Adama's face, Driss scolds him, But Adama remains tight-lipped about what's happening in his life. Driss sends him to wait in his room and calls Mina to reassure her not to worry. Afterward, he goes to assist Philippe with bedtime, though Philippe isn't ready to sleep just yet. After showing Driss a painting, Philippe starts asking about his family. Initially reluctant, Driss eventually opens up. Adama isn't technically his brother, and his parents are actually his aunt and uncle. They brought him to France from Senegal when he was 8 because they couldn't have children, and his real name is Bakari Basari. However, since other kids shared the name, they started calling him Idris, which later became Driss. Eventually, his aunt had children of her own, and after his uncle passed away, more men and more kids entered the picture. In the same way Driss had urged him to discipline Elisa, Philippe advises Driss to do the same for Adama. Philippe ultimately fires Driss, encouraging him to focus on his family instead of looking after an old man. The next morning, after Bastien delivers his daily croissant with a better hairstyle, Driss packs his belongings. Magali comes to bid him farewell, and when Driss flirts with her one last time, she introduces him to Fred, short for Frederic, revealing she isn't interested in men. Accepting defeat, Driss drops the matter. Before leaving, he returns the baby monitor to Yvonne, teasing her for lying about Magali just to play a trick on him. Yvonne hands him the escort file he started, and he's disappointed to find the picture he selected hidden inside. Frustrated, he discards the file but keeps the photo for himself. As Driss steps outside, he encounters a car blocking the entrance and demands it move, even though he no longer works there. When Adama questions his persistence, Driss insists it's about principles. A few hours later, Driss and Adama pick up their mother from the station. Meanwhile, back at the house, Philippe has his first dinner with a new caretaker. The man is dull and unengaging, prompting Philippe to leave without even eating. Since Yvonne is out on a date with the gardener, nobody is around to reprimand him. Driss resumes his old life, reconnecting with friends and warning the guys in the suspicious car to leave Adama alone. During a job interview for a position he lacks experience in, Driss charms the employer by calling himself pragmatic and showcasing the art knowledge he gained from Philippe. This lands him a job as a driver. Meanwhile, Philippe struggles with his new caretaker and becomes increasingly irritable. One evening, he refuses assistance with his phantom pain, so Yvonne calls Driss for help. This leads to the chaotic scene from the beginning, with the police chasing them and later escorting Philippe to the hospital. Afterward, Driss drives Philippe to the coast, where the sight of the sea helps him relax. Sometime later, Driss trims Philippe's overgrown beard before taking him to lunch, but he doesn't stay, as Philippe has other company arriving. Driss wishes him luck, returns the Fabergé egg, and leaves. Philippe grows anxious about being alone, but lights up when he sees his date, Eleonore, who is thrilled to meet him and unfazed by his wheelchair. In real life, Count Philippe Pozzo di Borgo now lives in Morocco, where he is remarried and has 2 daughters. Abdelyasmin Salou, the real-life Driss, runs his own business and is also married with 3 children. The 2 men remain close friends to this day.